Thank you all very much for joining us tonight. My name is Mike Schwartz, and I've been working with the Department of Education for almost 20 years now. And I look forward to being here for the presentation of iPlatform. iPlatform is a tool that has been developed for the primary purpose of sharing data with the public. And that public includes teachers, parents, legislatures, researchers, really anybody in the public that can take advantage of education data. And hopefully, by making more data available to the public, collectively, we can all help improve education. I want to, really thank several folks at the Department of Education who've kind of led up this work. Certainly, the commissioner has been a strong advocate for the concept of sharing data. So many thanks to the commissioner for putting his effort and making this a priority. Dina Raybach is the developer, one of the programmers who really is the mastermind behind much of the insides of iPlatform. So many thanks to Dina. Caitlin Davis is the division director over the DEER division, and she's been primary person supporting it and pushing this forward as well. We're going to keep everybody muted, but please, we want to encourage questions. So feel free through the Zoom interface to ask questions in the Q&A section of your Zoom screen. We will also send an email to everybody if any of you need a PD hour. Sometimes educators who are working in schools might want that. We'll send that. We'll also send a copy or a link to the video of the webinar and the PowerPoint and the slide documents as well. So look forward to receiving that. And then we'll also have a survey. We constantly want to improve. We look for your feedback to make sure we're presenting the right information. So please provide feedback when you receive that survey. At this point, again, I'm Mike Schwartz. With me is Heather Jenkins, and Heather has been helping schools throughout the state figure out ways to use data to inform instruction. She's one of the leading experts in New Hampshire in that area. So excited to have Heather with us today, and she's going to walk us through iPlatform. So thank you very much. I think I've got my camera on. I'm going to turn it off in just a minute just for bandwidth. But thank you. I'll be here watching for any questions and resource if needed.
All right. Thanks so much, Mike. Again, I'm Heather Jenkins. We appreciate you being here tonight. We have a lot of information to share, so we're just going to get started and get going. I'm going to do the same thing with my camera. It does seem to help to be able to not have our information on the screen. I'm not sure. I thought it was making it bigger for people as well, so hopefully that's the case. To just kind of go over what we're going to be going through tonight, we're going to start with just an overview of iPlatform, some general information about where the data comes from, and then we're going to go into each of the following areas. We're going to go into iReport, iExplore, iAchieve, and then we're going to talk about some scenarios. There's some other portions that are within iPlatform that we aren't going to be going through, but there's definitely a lot of information, and most of the information that folks tonight will want are on these three areas that we have here. So just first and foremost, the information on iPlatform is for all schools in New Hampshire, all types of schools. So we could have academies or charter schools, public schools. All that information is going to be on iPlatform. The data is collected basically throughout the year from all the different districts in schools. The students are assessed each year on multiple assessments. It's not just the New Hampshire SAS assessments. They are also SAT. Some students are looking at the DLM that they're doing. So all of the assessments are done throughout the year. And then the information that is gathered throughout the year is then analyzed, and information on school performance is then uploaded into iPlatform in a way that we're hoping you'll be able to utilize.
Heather,
Yep.
There were two questions that just came up. One person asked if the private schools were included, and I can answer that. The private schools are not. So it's the public schools, but the public schools include charter schools as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other question was, what was DLM? And DLM is an assessment that's given to The students with the highest level of special needs, so students who have some special education and IEP, but at it's kind of the 1% of the most folks with the most need within the state take it's an alternative assessment that students take instead of the New Hampshire state assessment.
Great. Thanks, Mike.
Yep.
So the information that is put up on iPlatform, a lot of it comes from the different areas that the state has, some of its I4C and other areas. Superintendents are given access. The way that we make this public is through the iPlatform sort of setup there through iReport and the iExplore and iAchieve. If you are somebody who works in a school and you feel like you need information and you're not getting it, then you would work with your superintendent for that. Most of us hopefully are parents and things like that, so we're going to use the actual iPlatform to be able to find that information. Just an overview of some of the components that we're going to be talking about. Again, we're going to start with iReport, and it's got a couple of different sort of tabs at the top. We're not going to go through every single one of them. So this is an overview of all the tabs that you would be seeing and what is showing on iReport. iExplore is the same, and then iAchieve as well. So this is sort of a little overview of what you'll be able to see on some of these platforms. We're going to go through quite a bit, but not everything. So this might be helpful for you. So to get to iPlatform, again, it is public. You can get to it from basically Googling iPlatform, or we put the link right here. We know you don't have access to it now, but we can get right to it from this link here. So I'm gonna get there, and we're gonna go through iReport. So I'm gonna go through some slides that are going to give you some general information, and then we'll go live in there. So I'll get right onto iPlatform and show you how to get there. I'm going to pause for just a second because I see some questions in the chat, and I just want to make sure, Mike, that we're all set before I move on.
Thank you, Heather. Yeah, I was going to try to interrupt you in a minute. So there were a couple other questions that came in. One was about whether private schools can obtain access to the system. And just to clarify, if I misled that, anybody can access the system. As Heather said, this is public. There's no password. All the data that's presented is just aggregate summary data. So you're not seeing information about any given student. And that's why we can make it public. So anybody can get access, but this data and the information about the schools are just about public schools. And then there was a question about whether it's related to iReady testing. As Heather mentioned, this is kind of summarizing the state assessment tests. So the state has assessment tests that have been developed for New Hampshire to make sure students are learning the New Hampshire, what New Hampshire standards are that we expect students to learn. So it's not iReady, it's a similar type of test, but it's the one that the state has. The only other thing I do want to add is that state assessment test has, and Heather, maybe you can answer this actually, has ability for you to take some practice tests that I think are available to the public that potentially if you were in a private school, I think you could probably get access to those public, at least the sample tests. Is that right, Heather?
Absolutely. Yep. They're right on the for New Hampshire SAS for grades 3 through 8, ELA, math, and science. And then also for SAT, you can get on there and you can do practice tests as well. But yeah, you do not need a login. You can go right on the New Hampshire SAS portal and go to students and families, and there's some practice tests that you can do there. Yep.
Thank you for those questions, by the way. Thank you.
Yep. Okay, so we're going to move into iReport at this time. Again, so once we're on the iPlatform site, you can see here that we've got a few different options. And so the first one we would choose would be iReport. What I want to make sure that is clear, specifically with the timing that we have right now, we're just starting February. This data is for the 2022-23 school year. It is not yet for this current school year because they haven't taken the assessments for this school year. So the information for our current school year will be ready in September or October. But for right now, we're looking at last year's 22-23 data. This is the screen that will pop up for iReport, and you can see that you're able to choose from a multitude of information. You can choose your specific school or your district. There's a drop down here. And as soon as you choose that, so basically I went here and I chose Memorial School in Bedford. It was a random choice that we had. And so this is the main page that pops up. So you have an overview here of your student achievement. Again, we're looking over here at 2023, so that's a 22-23 school year. If you wanted to look at previous years, you could use the drop down. And then you have all of these different tabs at the top that have different information on them. Again, we're overview right now. And so as we look here, there's also some information up at the top. You could go back to the search if you wanted to find a different school. If you had chose a district, you could see the school list in there. You could compare some things and you could download. So we're going to talk a little bit about this here. Again, 2023 school year. I've moved now to the achievement tab. So I'm looking at student achievement, and just some general information about what's on this page here is you're able to see the ELA proficiency overall. So this is not one specific grade level. This is all grade level, and this is the New Hampshire SAS and the SAT combined. And what happens is we're looking at the ELA proficiencies. And so if you see the levels there, so we see level 3 and level 4, those two combined go into overall proficiency. So your level 3 students are those that are proficient, and then level 4 is the proficient with distinction. Both of those go into the total amount for proficiency. This target here is a little bit confusing. When people see target, they think that's where the state is. That is not where the state is. That's not the state average. The target is really, I guess for all intents and purposes, where the state is hoping people will be when they see achievement scores for either ELA or math. You can see the targets are different for each one. And again, it's not the state average. If you wanted to see where the state was, though, we can look over here. The cool thing about anything that's on iPlatform is there's a lot of color coding in here. You'll see that ELA is always going to be that reddish pink color, math is going to be that blue, and science will be the green. And then when you're looking at the assessment proficiency, the state of New Hampshire will be green, your school, your district will be light blue, and your actual school will be yellow. So that's consistent across all of these here. So you can see the state of New Hampshire proficiency is right about here. So just above, in between the 50 and 60, the actual school, and then the district as a whole. And then you can see that for math and for science as well. Moving on to the growth tab, we're looking here at specifically where your students are making growth. So achievement is really important. We want students to be proficient. We want them to show knowledge of specific skills, but it's definitely not the only thing. We want to make sure that we're looking at growth, because we don't want just students that were the lower students to grow and become higher achieving students, and then those higher achieving students sort of stay stagnant. We want everybody to make growth. So this is the overall growth for this particular school. You can see here, when we're looking at growth, you're comparing growth to their academic peers. So this is a very simple way to explain it. It is far more complex than what we have here on this screen. But if we're thinking about growth, I'm just going to use a scenario. Say I'm a student and I was a level 2 for ELA. Well, my level 2 ELA also has a score associated with it, a scaled score. So let's just say if I'm in 3rd grade, my scaled score is 330. I am looking at the past year that I took this. So this would be maybe 2022. So the 21-22 school year compared to the 22-23 school year. If my scaled score was a 330 in 3rd grade, I am going to be compared. My growth comparison is to students who scored similar to me the year before. So let's say that my score the next year, I move up from a 330 and a level 2. So now I'm in 4th grade and my score has maybe gotten to a 400. I am comparing my score to those students who scored the 330 in 3rd grade to see what my actual growth is compared to those particular students. So it creates almost like this cohort of students that score similarly to me, and now I'm compared to them to see what my growth percentage is. So any growth percentage of 50% or higher indicates that your students are scoring higher than students who scored similarly the year prior. So you want to see 50% or higher. All right. If I wanted to download any information about my school or my district, there's a few different options for downloads. The first one is you can print the report cards for a specific school or district. So this is what it would look like. This is the summary report. It's just a single page here. You could download it as a PDF and see it. And this is just sort of a snapshot of this particular school. The detailed report card is a little bit different. It is just that, it's far more detailed. So we've got the general information here, and then there are other pages that show all the different indicators and how those indicators look for this particular school. So it's a lot more detailed and gives you a lot more information about a lot of the different indicators. And I'm going to tell you what some of those indicators are in just a little bit when we go live. The downloading data, so the other ones were PDFs. If you wanted to download it and work in Excel, so some people like to be able to take the data and create different Excel spreadsheets. What we can do here is you can look at it different ways. So we can look at, this is all data for a selected school. So since I was in the Memorial School in Bedford, it gave me the information for this particular school and then what the different indicators are. It's far longer than this. This is just a snapshot of the first part of it, but it will be, you'll be able to download that data into Excel and to be able to take out what you want or just show what you want in that particular screen. All data for multiple entities, you would be able to choose different schools that you might want, and then you're able to download the data for those particular schools. So if you wanted to compare different schools and what the information is that's available for the indicators for that, you are able to do that as well. This last one, all data for schools in a district, just a heads up, we were in the Memorial School in Bedford. Whenever you get on here, you actually have to choose which district you want, and then you can choose those schools in the district. And so it will have the district overall and then the school information with it.
Heather, there was a question of whether you can download it to other, not just to Excel. And so just to clarify for folks, when you download it, you're downloading a CSV file, and that actually can be opened up by any spreadsheet program. So if you use Google Sheets, for example, it would open up in that as well.
Great, thank you. So this is just a snapshot of the different tabs within iReport. And right now, what we've done here in this presentation is if you are somebody who would like to share this information with other people, or you want to work through the different tabs within iReport, these are just some general scenarios that you might be able to go through and some sort of high level things that you might want to take a peek at. So that's what these couple of pages are. I see we have a few questions. I don't know if you've been able to answer them by typing or if you have anything that we want to go to before I go live into iReport.
I'm sorry, Heather, I was on mute. We're good.
Okay, great. Okay. Let's see. The iExplore here. I just want to go live. I'll show you what we have here. If I type in iPlatform, this is the first thing that comes up. I can click right here on iPlatform. I'm going to make this just a little bit bigger. And then where we were just now is the iReport. As we go in here, we can take a look. This is what, Port A. Crosby Kennett Middle School is the first one that comes up for everybody. You could go into any of these. You can start typing. If I live in Portsmouth, so if I wanted to do Portsmouth, I can just type this and I could say, okay, I want to see Portsmouth Middle School. And then I could view the report for them. Some things I just want to point out that can be a little bit confusing are the way that this particular sort of platform works and how it was developed is you can hover over a lot of different things and things will pop up. So there's so much to see here. You'll see again, like also that all the colors tend to be, they're consistent throughout the different pages. You can get a lot of different information as you hover over things. In addition, if I go here, this is the overall profile for the middle school. So this just gives you some general information about the population of the middle school, ethnicity, who's in charge and all of that. And it shows you where in the state it is. If we go here, I want to show you just on the achievement tab here. Some of the things that are pretty cool here are if I wanted to look at this ELA proficiency, it tells me exactly what the ELA proficiency is at 76%. Again, that's level 3 and 4 combined. But I can click on this arrow here and it opens up a breakdown of all the information about the ELA proficiency by student groups, by race and ethnicity, by grade, and by sex of male or female. So you can end up seeing a lot of other information on here as you click on the arrows. One thing to keep in mind, when I'm off of this, it stays up. If you want to close it, you click on it again and it closes. That is that happens on every single one of the screens. So just keep that in mind. So if I wanted to see math, I could see math the same way, and I can take a peek at what the math information is, and then I can close it. If you don't close it, like this is the proficiency, and we can see again by student group. And I could open up another one. And what happens is it's opening on top of the other one. So it can get kind of crowded as you keep opening up. So you can just close them this way. Again, this is interesting information to have because you've got the state comparatively. So the state will show you by grade level how the what the state averages are by grade level. This school is a middle school, so you'll see NA for all of the grades that are not in there, and then you can see the district as well. So it's kind of neat when you can pop up information here, and that's just sort of some general rules of thumb for iReport. Any questions, Mike, before I move on? Because we'll move on to the next iExplore.
Yeah, we have another great question, but I think you're going to answer it a little bit later. The question is, can you find other schools that have similar numbers for something? Like, for example, if you had a school and you wanted to see a similar number of economically disadvantaged students.
Yes,
somewhere.
that's one of the scenarios that we're going to get into. It's actually the first scenario that we'll get to. So once I get through these, we'll talk about, we have 3 different scenarios we're going to go through at the end. So if you can hold tight, I will definitely answer that question for you.
Great.
That's actually in a little bit different area that we're getting into right now as well. Okay. All right. iExplore. This one is a little bit different. It's going to show us a little bit different information. It's on the same iReport screen. So we're just going to click there and click on iExplore. Again, we're looking at 2022-23 data. And you can also, iExplore is one of those that you can look at on the bottom. Like if I were in iReport, there's a little link that can go to iExplore as well. But this is the way I typically get to it, is through the iReport site on the New Hampshire Department of Ed site. So navigating iExplore, I'm looking at the bottom of the screen here. One of the things that is important to note is if you have a, correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, I think it's 10 or less students within a particular school or within a particular grade level, it will not show that information. It will have a little asterisk next to it. Just to protect student identification. I believe it's 10 or less.
Yep, you have it right. That's right.
Okay, great. So this is just an overview of iExplore. We've got some general information. Again, we're looking at the Explore tab within iExplore. And some of the information that's important to note here is you've got a lot of different things that you can use for indicators and a lot of different ways that you can sort of parse out the information that is showing on this particular Explore screen. So we're going to talk a little bit about what the indicators are here. So we're looking at indicator categories. So these are all the indicator categories that we have. Within those categories, there's even more information that you can pull out from those particular indicators. So as we're looking here right now, I have all of the indicators. So it's a running list. This isn't even the whole thing. It would go completely off the page. So there's a lot of different ways that you can look at the information here, and some really great information that you might be able to see if there's any sort of correlation between some of these indicators as well. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. Right now, this page, the Explore page, is always looking at proficiency in ELA and math compared to something else. So it's looking at proficiency compared to, right now, average class size. On the bottom here, you have this Pearson R value. Right now, it's a 0.07. So here's a little bit about the Pearson R value. This value is basically represents the correlation or probability that the indicator and the information that you're looking for, so proficiency in math and ELA, if there's any sort of correlation between the two of them. So the value of between 0.8 and 1 tends to be a positive correlation. Anything below a 0.5 tends to be a weak correlation. So this 0.07 would be a weak correlation between average class size and proficiency in ELA and math. One thing to note is, let's say there was a correlation, that does not mean that the larger class size is causing the proficiency in ELA to be lower. So the correlation does not equal causation. So you want to be really careful about that. It could be a completely different factor that is prohibiting the students from becoming a little bit more proficient in ELA and math. And just because you see the correlation doesn't mean that it's caused by the larger class sizes, if that makes sense. The Discover tab is also something that's pretty cool here. We're looking at student growth in ELA versus the average teacher salary. So those are the two indicators. You're able to choose an indicator for the x-axis and the y-axis. So you've got a couple different indicators that you can choose. Again, so as we look at the indicators, Here you'll be able to open up like the academic growth. If I wanted to look at achievement, I would click on that little down arrow right here, and it would give me all the achievement indicators, and so on and so forth for all of the types of indicators that we have. So you're able to take a peek and see if there's a correlation between any couple of indicators that you would like. Again, the Pearson R value, same thing. We want to be, there is a correlation if it's 0.8 to 1, and then it's a lower correlation with 0.5 and below. Over here, we can also start to take the information and pull out specific schools or districts if you would like. Right now, it's got them all. You could say that you wanted a specific region of the state, or that you wanted, let's say, charter schools only. So we can talk a little bit about that when we go live as well. This here, we are in the compare tab here. And so what we're doing is we're looking at average class size, and we're looking at 2 different elementary schools and seeing what the information is for those particular schools. So you're able to choose 2 different schools and compare. So this might be something that if you know that you have a very similar school that's in your area, you might compare what your school looks like for average class size compared to theirs. Or you might have schools in your district and you're thinking, okay, is this equitable for class sizes? You might choose a couple schools in your district to be able to see for that. The indicators, again, there's a long list. It's not just average class size. You're able to choose a lot of the different indicators and just compare what the information is for those particular schools. Yeah, there are all the indicators. Again, it goes much past proficiency in math and ELA. So when we go live, I'll show you what we've got there. Right. These are the different tabs for iExplore. So we're going to go live for iExplore. So let's close these. I hit back. So now I'm on that iPlatform. I'm going into iExplore here. We've got the general information about iExplore. Again, we're looking right now at average class size for ELA and math. And then average class size versus proficiency. So let's say I didn't want to look at average class size. There's a couple of different ways I can look up here. I can go here and I can say, I don't want to necessarily look at all of the indicators. I could say I want to look at just school environment. So if I'm going to select here, just school environment and apply. So then what happens is, again, this stays open. So I just want to close it. And then now what I've done is, because I chose school environment, these are the indicators for school environment. So this is where my average class size is. Or maybe I want to look at the students to non-teacher staff ratio or what have you, any of these. So if I didn't want to look at school environment and I wanted to look at, let's say, educators, I could say apply. Now I can have my indicator for the educators. I want to see if there's any sort of thought about what the average teacher salary is compared to proficiency in ELA and math. Right, so you can see the Pearson R value is 0.53, so there's not really any correlation necessarily between teachers getting paid and what the proficiency levels are for ELA and math. The cool thing here that you can also do is if you are thinking here, okay, so these are teachers that are paid pretty well and their proficiency is pretty high. Where is that? So it tells you right where that is. You can hover over it. You can also say, I actually don't want to see all of the types of schools. Maybe I want to see here, where is my, oh, region, there it is. I've got district chosen, so I want to choose school. And then I can choose region here. So let's say I'm in the Lakes region. I just want to see the schools in the Lakes region. And here are the schools within the Lakes region. Again, I need to close it here. And I can see, again, now it's even even a lower correlation. Again, correlation, not causation, but I can look here and I can say, well, in the Lakes region, it looks like Carpenter School, they seem to be paid relatively well and their proficiency level is relatively high. The other areas that we can look at is if we go to the if we look over here, just we can see all of the different schools as well and what the teacher salaries are. So there's just some general information here. We can click here. I don't believe that this is. I believe that is something that we're working on figuring out. So I'm just gonna leave that there. If I go to the Discover tab here. Again, I'm looking at right now the student growth in ELA. I'm looking at it compared to average teacher salary. I can see here again some of the indicators. So if I wanted to look here, this is a really good place to see which indicators fall within which category. So right now, academic growth is open. If I wanted to open achievement, these are my achievement indicators. College and career readiness. Here are my college and career readiness indicators. Same thing here, educator. These are my ESSA indicators. Finance. Different indicators here. And so on and so forth. So you can, I find this really helpful to figure out which indicators are which. So this would be my x-axis and my y-axis. I can also choose whether I want school or district. I want to see, I could use whatever school type that I wanted. So the level of education for that school or district. Here's where we see charter schools and public academies or other public schools, and then our regions. If we wanted to highlight a specific entity, I could choose a specific entity to highlight. So if I was looking for where my school fell in on this, I would be able to see that. Let's see. All right. Any questions here that you have before I move on, Mike, from iExplore? We're going to do a couple of scenarios in there, but I just wanted to check.
Yeah, I mean, there was a question earlier about looking for the average percentage of students who are receiving free reduced lunch or the if you want to go back to Explore, can you show how you can sort that list? And I know I think there might have paused too because on some places you can sort right now where we're seeing on this search page, you can see there's little arrows that go up and down. That's good. She's going to show us an easier way to do this later, but why don't you show on the Explore tab where you can take the percentage.
Okay, so if I go here, I'm going to just choose this and then I'll get the whole. Is that under finance, Mike?
To be honest, I'm not sure. If you just click on the indicator name, we can find it too.
Well, that's the problem is that.
Oh, can you choose them all?
It's not refreshing. Like
Okay.
since I chose all, you know what I mean? I thought I was going to be able to do that. So I'm just going to refresh here. Okay. So now I can say economically disadvantaged students. And we can see here. And then the correlation.
Can you show the trick where you scroll down to the bottom and on the tool on the graphic you can.
Yep. So this here is where you're able to sort. You kind of can't see it, but If you click right on here, then now this is putting it into the highest percentage of economically disadvantaged students to the lowest percentage throughout the state.
Thank you, Heather. And I think there's going to be a fix in it where you don't have to go down to the x-axis and find that little thing that there'll be arrows in the top. But for now, that's the way you do it. But Heather's going to show us in a little while. Hang on, she's going to show you even another way to find to sort that type of information.
Perfect. All right. Anything else? Should I stay here or go back to our?
You're good.
Okay,
and
perfect.
I'm going to let you know, Heather, you've got about 18 minutes.
Okay, let's motor. Here we go. Okay, so these again are the scenarios for iExplore. So you might want to take a peek at these. And then we're going to move right into iAchieve. So again, I'm on that iPlatform here. And then here is what we're seeing on iAchieve. This happens to be the state of New Hampshire that comes up. And so we're able to look at assessment participation. So this just happens to be the participation tab. We're looking here. So just one sort of piece of information about participation rates. So participation rates are for use if you were looking at your specific district or a specific school. The only thing that's included in participation rates is for those schools that were there in your school for the full academic year or 90% of the academic year. If students moved in February and they were taking the assessments in April, they are not necessarily counted in your participation rates. So you're not required to the scores and everything don't necessarily go towards your participation rate or your achievement. For participation, 95% is the federal rate. It's not just the state of New Hampshire asking for that. So you want your participation rates to be high. This is something that this is probably a good group to maybe just for a second talk about. There are a lot of times that for whatever reason, people are opting their students out of taking the New Hampshire SAS assessments or the SAT, and for whatever reason. I just want to make sure that it's clear to all of you out there that the New Hampshire SAS assessments in grades 3 through 8 for ELA and math, and then 5, 8, and 11 science are accountability measures for the state. So you want to have a 95% participation rate or higher, or the scores for your district and for your looking at where you are for accountability are going to go down. It's the same thing for SAT. SAT is an accountability test in the state of New Hampshire. It is not just for students who want to go to college, and it is not going away even if colleges are not necessarily going to require it for admission. So I just want to make that clear that as we are looking at for accountability, if you are below a 95% participation rate, any student below that, it's not directed towards a specific student, but a certain number of scores will then be a 0. So an example would be if you have 100 students in your school, just to make it easy, you need 95 students to take that assessment to meet the participation rate if you have 100 students. If you have 90 students take it, then you get 5 zeros for accountability for your achievement. So it's significant. So I just want to point that out. I'm not going to take any more time on it. If you have questions, you can definitely wait to the end and ask them, but I just want to make sure that folks understand when students are opting out. I know that there's different reasons that they are, but those scores really matter and they count towards accountability. For the proficiency and growth tab, just some general information about here. We're looking at the top here for specific school or district or for the state. We're looking at the overall proficiency for ELA, math, and science. This is also shown on a couple of other tabs, but it's just in a little bit different way here. And this is where we're looking at that growth. So this is where we're looking at specific cohorts of students compared to their peers and the amount of growth that they're making. Over here is a proficiency, then the growth. Again, we want 50% or higher, means they're making growth faster than their cohort of peers the year prior. And then down on the bottom here, we also have the proficiency and growth over time. And we'll be able to talk about sort of what this is in one of our scenarios as well. So again, follows that cohort, and you're looking at it sort of diagonally and seeing what the growth was for a specific period of time. This one happens to be proficiency. That is, sorry, the arrow here. And then on the achievement levels tab, we're looking here, and we're able to see the academic levels for ELA, math, and science, and then the growth for ELA and math. And then sciences is a little bit different because the growth, because it's done in 5, 8, and 11. The achievement levels can be shown, but there's not necessarily a growth measure because it skips years.
Heather, there was a question about those zeros that you were talking about, whether those are included. And just to confirm, zeros are not included. If you have more than the 5% of the students that missed this, those are not included in the pages that Heather's showing you now, the achievement levels and proficiency. That's just of the kids who took the test. And when she gets to the next tab, ESSA, that they will be included when those ESSA values are determined.
Yes. Thanks. So this is the achievement over time. This is the bottom of that screen, and you can see the achievement and growth levels over time for particular students for each year. This one is the one where you're going to be seeing those zeros are going to affect this particular tab and what you have for achievement and sort of growth, equity, all of that. So the zeros here factor into what your overall achievement level, and that is one of the accountability measures that can change what you are for your ESSA indicators. So right now, this particular school is in good standing. There's a few different indicators in here. Good standing means that everything looks good. You don't have any, you know, you're doing everything you need to, and there's no subgroups or anything like that that seem to be below average. There are a couple of other indicators. There's ATS and TSI schools, and those are schools that either their achievement is one of the lowest in the state, or their growth is very low, or one of these particular indicators is really low, so that they have like a targeted support area. So this is, again, this is a place where you would see where those zeros are kind of making a difference. I'm seeing some things pop up in the chat, Mike. Anything you need to add, or that people are asking?
Yep, no, so there's a question about how the regions are divided in New Hampshire, and why is Concord in the Lakes region? So I'm going to have to explore that. It's a good question. I know that there's 5 regions, and I'll try to answer that before we're done.
Okay, perfect.
Unless you know the answer.
Okay. All right, so these are the different tabs that we have within iAchieve. I'm actually, I think I'm going to hold off on going live on iAchieve. I'm looking at the time. Most of what I was showing you is, I showed you pretty much every page on that one. We can explain some more of the indicators if we need to, but I would love to be able to get into the scenarios and then folks can ask questions as well. Okay, so this is just the general information for iAchieve. So now I want to go into the scenarios. This first scenario is the one that we were talking about in the beginning. So maybe your students have been struggling with performance on the state assessment. Maybe you want to talk to similar districts who are performing better on the assessment. And who should you contact? Other relevant information that you might have here is your school has more than 300 students. It has a high number of families in poverty. And so what are we looking at? I'm going to look specifically at math performance. So if we're looking at this and we want to be able to find out schools that are similar to ours, you're going to go right into iExplore. So on iExplore, I'm going to go to this search tab here. So what happens with this search tab is you're able to see right now, it has their achievement rating for every single school in the state here. And for some reason I can't scroll. There we go. And as you scroll down, the achievement level gets lower and lower. You can keep this achievement level, achievement rating here if you would like, or you could change it to one of our first indicators that we were thinking about, which was the math proficiency. So if I go here and I say, okay, I want to see my math proficiency. One of the things that I want to point out here at the top is, do you see these filters? Right now there are 0, 0, 0, 0. If you want to take any of the indicators and narrow the search, then don't change achievement rating, right? Don't put it here because you won't be able to filter it. So if I keep this here and let's say I want to look at my math proficiency, I'm going to look here and I'm going to go down and I'm going to say proficiency in math. So now this is the overall achievement rating. So these are the high performing schools here, and they have very high achievement levels. And then here is the percent of students that are proficient or proficient with distinction. So level 3 or level 4. And then this next indicator we were talking about was I wanted my students to have, I wanted the schools or that are listed here to have the same or more than I have for total enrollment. So if I go here and I go to total enrollment, right now, the smallest school that's listed has 12 and the highest has 2,954. So if I wanted them to have at least 300, I can type it in here. I can use this little thing here too. So I'm changing it this way. I find it really touchy, so I like to put my cursor in here and then I hit 300 and enter. And so now it's taken any schools that are smaller than 300 and taking them out of here completely. If I wanted to not have the really high, like the really big schools in here, I could change my range and maybe I want from 300 to 600 students. And so now what I'm seeing is any schools that have between total enrollment of 300 to 600. My last indicator that I wanted to see was this, the economically disadvantaged students. So I want to go here and I can choose this. And I wanted those schools that had a 40% of students are economically disadvantaged. So 40% or higher. So now what I've done here is I have all of the schools listed that meet my criteria. And so now what I can do here is I can sort it in any way that I would like. If I want to sort it by total enrollment, I can click here. And now it's in order from the smallest school to the largest school. If I wanted to go over here and I wanted to filter it on the proficiency, I could click here. And now this is the lowest proficiency percentage all the way up to the highest. Or if I wanted it highest to lowest, I could click it again. Now I've got the highest proficiency to the lowest. And again, I can hover over any of this and I see all the information about what school and the information here that I have and all of the indicators. So this is the way that you can kind of sort through and take a peek. If I know that I only wanted to see, maybe I'm a charter school, if I only wanted to see specific public schools, or if I only wanted to see specific regions, I could do that as well. So if I am in the Lakes region and I only want to see Lakes region, I can look here, and then these are the Lakes region and so on and so forth. Any questions about that?
I think we're okay right now. Thank you, Heather.
Okay, sounds good. All right. If we go back here, what I did here was on the next slide was the answer to the scenario, and I just put iExplore and then the page here that allowed you to see that. For our next scenario, we have you're curious about student proficiency and growth in your school. It would be helpful to see a snapshot for each grade level over the last few years. And you would like to compare ELA, math, and science to see if proficiency and growth are similar. Where should you look? So here, we're going to go back and we're going to hit iAchieve. We are going to go to proficiency and growth. And this is where we're able to see, this is the state. So if you wanted to look at a specific school or a specific district, I'm just going to go with this because it's the first one here. It's probably going to be the worst one for me to go to, but we're going to go here, close that up again. This looks good. Okay. So here's what we have. We see what their overall proficiency is for ELA, math, and science. Here's the state target, but here's the growth they're making. So this past year, the growth that they're making looks like it's pretty good. But let's look here. As we're looking at the proficiency over time, we have some COVID years in here. As time goes on, it will be a little bit easier to kind of decipher. So we had grade 3. They were at 29% proficiency. They had a COVID year. Nobody took it in 2020. And then, so in 5th grade, they had 32% proficiency, 43%, and 38%. So this is how they're growing over time. We could also look at it this way. And we could say for grade 6, this is the way the proficiency is going from year to year. So they had 44%. Then 6th graders in 2021 had 47%, went down to 43%, and went up to 53%. So you can start seeing some trends. Like this here, I would be worried a little bit about this. So we are at 49% COVID, then 54% proficiency, and now we're at 38 and we're going down to 36. So that might be something that you might want to say, maybe they change programs, or maybe the teachers change what is sort of causing that. So this is a good place to be able to see that. And then again, the assessment and growth over time, same thing. You can look this way to see what percentage of growth people are having. And then you can look again this way to be able to see growth. You've got 2 COVID years here because you need the year prior and the year after. So they couldn't do it in 2021. The growth started again in 2022. So you've got ELA, math, and science. I'm looking at the time. So I'm going to go here. That's the answer key for that scenario. Here's my last scenario. You believe that class size in your elementary school, I should say elementary schools are high, or your specific school. You wonder if schools with smaller class sizes have higher test scores. And then where would you look to see the correlation? So here we are going to go to iExplore. And I'm going to go to the Discover tab here. And right now I have the indicator here is student growth. I do not want student growth. I want the achievement to be here. And I want to go with achievement in math. So proficiency in math. I'm going to close that up now. And then I want to go here for my second indicator. And I want to go down here to school environment. And then I want to go to average class size. So now we're seeing here that there is actually nowhere near the correlation. But maybe I also, because I said I wanted to see my just elementary schools, so I want to see elementary, right? So I'm looking here. And then I can also say, I just want to see a specific region, right? So maybe I just want to see the South Central and I can apply. And then we can go from here and see that there is actually no correlation between math proficiency and average class size. If I wanted to choose is the district information, I could here as well. Well, that's not helping me. So, okay. All right. And then I can start hovering over these as well and seeing who's who here. So this is Clark Wilson. Sorry. And you can see sort of the general information there. All right.
There was a question about what the dots represent you, so you just answered it. So they're all schools, and just as you can see where on the graph that how they're showing right now, there are dots that are below that fit line, that best fit line, where you've got schools that have small class sizes and are doing well, and there's similar dots above the directly above that part of the line where they have high class size and the same type of proficiency. So it's a good example of where it shows you that it seems like class size is not there. There's schools with larger classes that are doing just as well as schools with smaller classes.
Great. All right. Again, here's the answer for that. These are just some helpful hints. Again, that expanding, you want to click on it again so that it goes back, or click on an X. Take a peek at the different pop-ups. You can see all the different filters they have and all of that. And so these are just some general tips and helpful hints. Something is happening to my screen. There we go. Upcoming webinars and workshops. These are mostly for educators and folks that are in the school system, but I just wanted to have them in here. And then if you need to contact us with any questions or need any additional information, I'm Heather Jenkins. We also have Mike Schwartz on here. There's some general email addresses for the Department of Ed. And Dina is the main person. She can answer lots of different things.
Great. Heather, I just want to follow up with a couple of questions that were raised. So there was one again about where the regions were based from. And so I did get an answer that Caitlin Davis, who's the division director, she's wonderful. She texted me right back now. She said that the regions were originally defined by the Department of Safety. She's not exactly sure how the Department of Safety came up with the regions, but that is the region definition that the Department of Education took on many, this is probably 20, 30, 40 years ago. But those are the regions that originally created by the Department of Safety, and that's what's used. The other, there's also a question about there were some schools when you were doing a correlation that had zeros, and how does that throw off the correlation factor, the R factor? And we need to look into that, and we will look into that, and if we can, when we send out the materials, if we can send an answer to you, we will. If not, please feel free to follow up with Heather or myself, and we can talk more about it. But that's something we'll definitely look into.
Great. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming.